I'm pleased to say that the CEO is joining us this morning, Heimo Scheuch. Heimo, good morning, and thank you for being in the studio with us today. Looking at some of these numbers, I'm just trying to understand, how would you describe how the second quarter pan out for the business?
First of all, thank you for having me. A wonderful good morning. The second quarter for Wienerberger was an okay quarter. I would say there's nothing exciting happening in this world except that the news comes from one man right now, and he is determining interest rates, he's determining the whole sort of tariff discussions. But all of it is actually a lot of volatility and means that there's no really sort of big trends emerging in the building and construction arena.
I guess to some extent you would rather have that than a lot of uncertainty. At least you know what you're counting on for the time being. But I'm trying to understand, when you published your trading update a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that you were using the word challenging a lot, and this has been a common adjective that the company has used so far this year. I'm trying to understand what has been making this year actually challenging for this company.
Three things. The first one that I refer to is this volatility that we have geopolitically. Every other day there's something new, and that's not good for the construction industry. Construction industry likes stability, likes long-term views, and this is not right now not happening. Take the US, for example, with a new residential housing market down about 6% or so. So this is one thing. Second thing, interest rates. We assumed that interest rates would go down sharper, quicker, faster, and have an impact on the financing, obviously, of the real estate sector. This hasn't happened either. Take American rates pretty high. European rates have come down, but not for the mortgages actually that much. And the third one is obviously affordability also for people. So this we assumed that there will be more social housing activity. Take, for example, the country here, UK. It's not really coming through. There's a lot of talk, a lot of discussion, there's a lot of demand, but not really anything from the government.
And the talk is not really new, and that's a good opportunity actually to break down the results into the different geographies. If we start by looking at the performance in North America, what did you witness there this time around?
What we witness on the ground in the US is obviously you have a sluggish new residential housing market in all of the states. So there's not enough new residential housing coming through because of the high interest rates. So this is obviously harming the market. You have a rather good infrastructure market, still from the spending of the old administration now coming through also for road works and others. So this is really good. Renovation plays a minor role in the US. So new residential housing market, I think we will see some change towards the end of the year, because I assume that interest rates will go slightly down after the encouraging figures of inflation in the US.
And that could unlock some of the dynamics.
Absolutely.
Thinking about Europe, however, we have seen a little bit of, at least of noise coming out of Germany in terms of changing some of the regulations here. What are you seeing in this part of the market? And more broadly, what are some of the dynamics you're witnessing in Europe?
You used the right word, noise. That's what it is for the moment. It's a lot of talk. Especially Germany is a very complex and complicated country when it comes to building and new residential housing, because it's actually regional and not so much a federal government issue. So they need to sort this out. I come to Germany in a minute, but what you see are certain pockets in Europe that are doing better. The Netherlands, for example, are doing better. France is seeing its bottom now in new residential housing. So they're encouraging signs throughout Europe that new residential housing will slightly pick up in the second half of this year. That's important. The renovation rates are good in Europe, so this will encouraging us in order to put more emphasis on renovation. And then infrastructure spending is also rather good in Europe, depending on what the subsidies are out of the EU, especially for Eastern Europe. But the water supply and also energy is a big issue in Europe, as you know. Germany, to come back to your question, this needs to be a sort of really a package that comes through from the government and not just noise and talk. There's too much sort of announcement and sort of what sort of projects should be there, but there's no clear signal right now. So the German market has not picked up yet, and I would say this year, 2025, is done. So we will see probably and hopefully some better development next year.
So you're expecting a little bit of an uptake in Germany next year. I'm also interested in the comment in terms of the expectations for EBITDA in the second half of this year. You've said that you believe this will go up and be above the levels we have seen in the first half of this year. Explain to us, given all of these macroeconomic uncertainties, why do you expect this to be the case?
First of all, internally, we do a lot on cost optimization. We do a lot of on the sort of improvement of our business. So this will help us in the second half. Our running rates are up in the factories. We've been down in the winter time earlier this year. So this will help us, yeah. And also I see some easing in certain areas on the pricing front as well. So I believe that we will have a very reasonable second half of the year.
I also have to ask you, one of our top stories today is, of course, the upcoming summit between President Putin and President Trump. There have been conversations about the role that your company could potentially play in Ukraine. I'm wondering whether there have been any sort of developments on that front.
I would say we are ready for that. We have already our people on the ground. So in the moment or during this phase where there is more stability coming to the Ukraine, we will deliver products from Romania up to Poland into the Ukraine. We are also looking on the ground there in order to move in production-wise in the not too distant future, because I think peace will come, a new Ukraine will emerge, and therefore obviously there's a lot of work to be done there.
I have to pick up on that. You're suggesting production in Ukraine in a not so long distance future. What does that mean? Can you give us a timeline?
I would say in a year or so.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this is, I think, the time frame that you look at it. I wouldn't expect too much from a summit. I know you from the media are always very interesting, but I think important is that people start talking. That's very important. I think we don't estimate much that we need to talk to each other. Yeah? War is not an option.
Well, let's see what will come out of the summit. But in the meantime, I want to go back to the points around house affordability and how this has been an issue for a very long time across Europe. And ultimately, you're telling me that we're not seeing huge changes on the ground. What needs to happen ultimately in order to see a reversal of this trend?
You need, from a government perspective, it's a government-driven issue. Yeah.
So do you think this is still regulation related?
Yes. People are too slow. They don't understand that there's a real need of social housing. People need houses, affordable ones, if it's students, if it's young couples, etc. The politicians in Europe take too long. Yeah, they talk too much. There's too many committees. You need to take action. Action is needed. And it's not that complicated, by the way.
I've heard you saying that in the past, so I just have to follow up from the point of view that we have a new commission. We have had a new team on the ground for several months now. Have you noticed any change in the conversations that you've had with Ursula von der Leyen?
No, I told her a couple of months ago, it's nice to have a commissioner for new housing and social housing. It's perfect, but that's not enough. A commissioner is not changing the world. You need to do something and keep an eye on this. I think what you need to do, that the member states of the EU are focusing on these issues. It's not a political one anymore. It's a one that is social and integration. This is the primary subject for the future of Europe, housing.
And when it comes to some of their arguments, they talk a lot about competitiveness at this stage. How can you convince them that housing can actually help them also with those efforts?
It's interesting what you say, because it's a very logical thing. No, you attract talent around the world if you have housing. If it's affordable, it's nice, it's modern, then you attract people. This country was built a lot on immigration, yeah, and people were coming here, students were coming here and settling here and being here at universities. That's a logical thing. I don't actually need to explain it. It's very logic. So I'm always surprised among the two of us how out of the world politicians are these days.
And let's see how things will unfold. Hopefully next time we'll have a more upbeat conversation. Thank you for joining us today off the back of your results as well. Heimo Scheuch, the CEO for Wienerberger.